Hello everyone and welcome back to Sudden Wealth. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. If you do enjoy the content, guys, please, as you know, consider dropping that like and subscribe. And I would like to thank you all for the magnificent support so far. So today I'll be making a video which has the potential to go a bit longer than the others, but I do think there are a lot of things that need to be covered on this video. So number one, at the time of this recording, Bitcoin is now above 30,100. Now, we are very far away from an all-time high, that is, should be clear to everyone, and the fact that Bitcoin takes a lot of economic power to move it. However, it's a good psychological barrier that we are overtaking, and we actually should be overtaking it right now to keep in pace with the previous cycles. So we are keeping some level of uniformity around the cycles. The second part of this video will be about X, Richard Heart, and PULSECHAIN. As you know, those are my retirement bags, and at the time that I talked about them, I got a little bit of hate, but in any case, I think a lot of meaningful things have happened, so I'll cover that in the second half of the video. Now, Bitcoin above 30K. This is mainly driven, I believe, not only by the trends of the cycle, which naturally should be pushing the price of crypto higher, but also around the spot ETFs. Now, in case a lot of people missed this, by the way, so I do think I should be talking about it. Gary Gensler pretty much confirmed the Bitcoin spot ETFs will be approved without confirming it. Now, I'd like to say something very clear. No, there's no official statement by anybody. There's no official approval by anybody. I am trying to read into what he said and the way he said it in an interview that he gave. So this is basically my opinion. Okay, so you're free to disagree with me, call me all the names in the book. But this is how I read it. So I'm not sure if a lot of people missed this, but he was interviewed, well, about essentially the SEC losing some cases, not pursuing the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust appeal, basically dropping the charges against the founders of XRP, which will tie into Richard Heart, but that's for a different story. And then losing the lawsuit to XRP, of course, losing the lawsuit to Coinbase, blah, blah, blah. And when he was approached about the Bitcoin spot ETFs, he said, our team doesn't have 1 or 2 files, we have like 8 or 10 files. And the way that's going to happen is the spot ETF will be organized this way as an exchange traded product, blah, blah, blah. So what I'm trying to say is this: the way he was talking about it, it was not the human behavior and the human body communication in which you are basically, you cannot say if it's going to be approved or not. He's actually saying how it will work. So in my opinion, this is how I derive it, where I derive my conclusion, is in his mind, it is going to get approved. Now they are looking at the minutiae, the details on how they will be approved. And as I've mentioned before many times, but I'll say it again because it bears repeating this point in particular. I'm not here to judge if the coming of BlackRock, Fidelity, iShares, whatever, if this is good or bad. That's not my point. This will happen regardless of me liking it or not. I told you in the past, as soon as BlackRock comes in, that is very important. Not in the philosophical, oh my God, is this good? Philosophically speaking about what crypto should have been. Blah, blah. No, what I said was, as soon as they file the spot ETF, they are a quasi-government institution. They are BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard are the top 3 most powerful companies on the planet. Not Google, not Microsoft, these 3. Look at the investments that they have. They are the top shareholder of 88% of companies in the S&P 500, and amongst them, if you look at the current market capitalizations, they manage more than $60 trillion, which is almost 2.5 times the US GDP. It's more than the US GDP, China GDP combined. So they are very powerful. And during the stimulus periods, and when they were buying corporate bonds, etc., the Fed used BlackRock. There's a lot of connection between BlackRock and government. And the SEC, at the end of the day, is also very connected to the government, which means that if BlackRock comes in, I was expecting this. I knew for sure, I was willing to bet money that the spot ETF was going to be approved. Now, they would need to give an idea that they were fighting it and putting it under very great scrutiny because they've denied applications for 10 or 15 other files in the past, so they had to showcase some sort of fighting spirit, if you will. But it was a matter of time. But the way that he speaks, if you type Gary Gensler interview this week, the way his body language is, he's kind of giving details on how the ETF's gonna work. So you only do that if in your mind it's already approved. Now, going back to the other side, the second part of the video. Now, he dropped the charges, the SEC dropped the charges after many years against the billionaire founders of XRP. Now, there's another billionaire founder who was targeted by the SEC, and it's called Richard Hart. For those who don't know, he has been the creator of X, the crypto, and then the PULSECHAIN ecosystem, which basically copied all the ERC20 tokens. PULSECHAIN is the equivalent of Ethereum, X, the equivalent of Bitcoin, and PULSEX, the equivalent of Uniswap. Then you have the derivatives on top of X, which are basically from Alex, a different founder. But basically this is the overall ecosystem. And currently you have about 150 projects being developed on the chain, some of them to launch in Q4, others in Q1. Now, for people who don't know Richard, when you look at him in the first time, you get the impression of a scammer. That's what you get. Now, I have been trained because I lived in a country for many years where politicians said something and did something else. I've been trained my whole life to ignore what people, the way that they look and the content of what they're saying. And what he did was, over the years, he made very concrete predictions at a time when it's not easy to make those predictions. For example, 2021, he was arguing for people to take out their money from Celsius, BlockFi, FTX, because they were going to lose all their money once the bear market came. Now, this is 2021, the hype of the bull. Nothing can go wrong. Sam Bankman-Friedman was the poster boy of crypto exchanges and the favorite pal of Gary Gensler. So to say this, you need to be very careful because first of all, you're going after people with power, and number two, you're putting your reputation on the line. He predicted the Bitcoin top on the day, previous cycle, this cycle. Last cycle, he also predicted the Bitcoin bottom. Now, he said Bitcoin was going to go to 11K, which it never did. But he also said in an interview, well, maybe they printed so much money, we don't go to 11K, we stop at 15K. And we did stop at 15K. But he dresses himself, he covers himself in jewelry, he dresses himself, he drives Lamborghinis, Ferraris, you name it, and then he dresses himself, probably half of his clothes are more than my entire net worth. Not even half of his outfit, let alone his entire clothing. And the thing most people don't know is that he was already a millionaire and retired before crypto ever came along. He was a Bitcoin maximalist, and in 2011 he was mining Bitcoin, 50 Bitcoin at 50 cents, which means 25. Which means he was gonna get. After a few hours, he would get 50 Bitcoin. Well, at the time, they were worth $25. Now 50 Bitcoin is a lot of money, but at the time it wasn't. And he also bought Bitcoin at 30, which dropped then to 2. That's a 94% crash. He was actually convinced he probably got scammed. And then he became a very vocal Bitcoin maximalist. And then the reason why people call him a scammer, scam artist, all of these things, is because he made the ultimate sin in crypto. He left Bitcoin. Now, for those of you who are not very into the crypto world, like at real deep levels, you'll understand that eventually even very prominent Bitcoin maximalists end up leaving Bitcoin. Why? Because the advancements in Bitcoin are pitiful, Ethereum is better in almost anything, but the community of Bitcoin is loyal, is like a cult, but is extremely toxic in the sense that everything is a scam for them. Like even Ethereum is a scam. See what I mean? So, and by the way, the cardinal sin is to leave Bitcoin, to leave the cult. Then you're going to be pursued for eternity. So he also called Terra Luna a scam right when it was hitting all-time highs, and that was going to trick everybody once the bear market came, so on and so forth. Now, again, he was already a millionaire, probably a billionaire, way before he ever created X. But by creating X, again, the accusations came. And if you actually looked at the accusation that the SEC made, was about PULSECHAIN. And the accusation was as following. During the PULSECHAIN sacrifice, so you had a time period where you could basically give away your coins, and you would get coins in the future of PULSECHAIN at a $0 value. So then with the liquidity pairs, maybe that thing was going to be worth something in the future. And they were saying, oh yeah, he's using the funds of that sacrifice to buy himself luxury goods. Now, the reason why I knew that the SEC accusation was not serious is because if you actually go, there was a sacrifice address, a wallet address, and it's on chain. You just need to go to etherscan.io, copy paste the address, and you'll see that the sacrifice money has never moved $1. So how is he using that money to buy luxury goods if the money never left the same address? So the reason why these accusations came with the SEC was, number one, they were trying to show they were doing something. Number two, kind of to save face after the big crypto exchanges collapsed. Number three, there was a whistleblowing procedure in place that invited people to basically make accusations about several projects. Why? Because let's say that there was a 10 million settlement, the whistleblower was entitled to something like 30%. So 30% of 10 million, that's $3 million. So there's a big incentive to go after, to start, accusing projects of being securities and, selling unregistered securities, blah, 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 all of these things. So that's why you start to see BNB, Cardano, Solana, all the big Matic, all the big ones being accused of this. Then finally, so you also had that part, and I think that the SEC said, oh, this guy looks like a scammer, he dresses like a scammer, probably is a scammer, so let's just go for it. But you see, when institutional money is coming into crypto, all of a sudden, the SEC cannot be very against it. See what I mean? So why? Because big institutional money is coming in. If there are too many troubles with the SEC, the whole ecosystem loses value. So the institutions also lose money, which is not acceptable. So that's why you've seen also a twitch of positivity lately and more constructive stuff towards crypto than destructive from the SEC, in my humble opinion. Now, X, I always look at X on Ethereum, X on PulseChain combined. Why? Because if you had X on Ethereum during PulseChain, you got the copy for free on the PulseChain, which I did. So to me, they both work together. Now, in last week, X is up after a big downfall. You see, this is the difference. I talked about X, I talked about PulseChain, I talked about PulseX when the coins were going down. When the SEC just accused Richard Hart of misappropriation funds, I talked about it when it was not easy. You see, now it's easy. After it pumps, then it's very easy. But I talked about it at the worst possible time, and I've told repeatedly, and I will put again my cost average in the description. I've accumulated as much as I could of X, PULSECHAIN, and PULSEX during the time it was going down, and during at the time where basically everybody was being talked to sell these coins, get away, this is it, it's finished, blah, blah, blah. Now, what I've noticed over the last week is that Richard was very bragging and what is called outrageous marketing. So the point of his marketing is to make you mad, okay? I look at me, I'm so successful, I have all these things, you don't, I'm superior, I know better, you don't, you're stupid, I'm the most intelligent, blah, 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 this kind of stuff. Now, this works in certain cultures. In New York, it works well. In California, it probably doesn't. In Dubai, it works well. In Northern Europe, it doesn't. In Southern Europe, works well in the skies. In Central Europe, probably not so well. In Eastern Europe, probably not so well. But in China, Singapore, India, it works well. But maybe not in Australia, New Zealand, probably works well. But certain countries of Latin America, it doesn't. My point being, depending on your culture, you either love it or hate it. That's it. But it grabs your attention. Then he entered the humble phase. To stop with this nonsense. And that humble phase is almost over. I mean, if you look at his last posts on Twitter, on X, the social network, old Richard, which is the Richard that I like, the cocky, arrogant, in your face, you cannot look away, you wish that he was wrong but he's not, kind of Richard is back, which I like. Now, I agree, maybe you're going to say, oh, but I don't like him, he looks like a scammer, but fine. I mean, to me it's fine. You see, I've listened to him for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and I don't fall easy for stuff. So I start comparing the things he was saying versus what was happening some months later. And he was correct way more than he was wrong. So I give credibility to that above anything else. And the way that he started talking, I get the feeling, personal opinion, personal feeling, little bit of Nostradamus kind of stuff. I get the feeling because he has a hearing in November about the SEC accusing him. I get the feeling that similar to what happened to XRP founders, they're going to dismiss the case against him. That's my feeling. And I think that I'm not the only one with this feeling because X is pumping like crazy. Call me conspiracy theorist, we'll see if I'm going to be right or wrong. I get the feeling that they're going to drop the case against him. And of course that would be very bullish for the ecosystem, but not as bullish anymore as people think. The reason is very simple. What did I say all the time? Doesn't matter if you like him, if you hate him, if you like XRP, if you hate XRP, if you like Cardano, you hate Cardano, it doesn't matter. As soon as the SEC starts losing cases, that is positive for all the coins targeted by the SEC, regardless of if you are in the same tribe or not, regardless if you are in the same projects or not. Why do you think that when the SEC refused to appeal the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust decision, Solana pumped, X pumped, BNB pumped, Cardano pumped? Why do you think they pumped? They pumped because the more the SEC loses, the less relevant their negative cloud is. You see, in the past, when they went after XRP, that was very serious because they were the only one, pretty much. I mean, okay, of course, there was something with EOS in the past, but I mean, really ongoing process at the time. And it did a lot of damage because the last bull cycle was terrible for XRP. But the more they lose, the less relevant it becomes. The more friendly Gary Gensler is towards Bitcoin spot ETFs and crypto in general, the better it is for the other coins. As SEC drops charges on billionaire founders, the better it is for the other billionaire founders. See what I mean? And X is now up, X on Ethereum is up 150% plus in a week, ever since he made that tweet. Now, he didn't tell anybody to buy or sell anything because it doesn't do it. You see, if he dies tomorrow, X will continue to be what it is. It will continue to work. There's still the same front ends, same code, same everything. Now, I really think that this ecosystem will be the source of my, well, I hope, sudden wealth syndrome in the future. And I do hope that it will be the basis for me to create generation wealth and retire. And at the same time, I'm a bit concerned if I do get all of that, because the way that God tests you, if you believe in God, the way that God tests you is by giving you everything that you want and see if you can handle it. That quote, believe it or not, is from Mike Tyson. Now, it doesn't mean if you believe in God in the Christian sense, in the Muslim sense, in the Jewish sense, or in a universe kind of way sense, but in any case, I do think it's an interesting one, so I always like to repeat it. So X, I think, has put in the bottom for this cycle. I think PULSECHAIN, PULSEX, I told you about 2 weeks ago. I think that the bottom is in for them. I think X on PULSECHAIN as well. Of course, if X goes up, ICOSA goes up, ETHEREUM goes up, because they are the derivatives of X, and the higher the value of X, the higher the value of the derivatives. And I can speak about it because I've been seeing a lot of channels now talking about X. So they basically either ignored it or called it a scam for the longest time, but now that it's pumping in the middle of the beginning of the bull market, all of a sudden, everybody talks about X. No, I've been talking about it when it was really unpopular to talk about it. And I stood behind it. And this is the reason I think that the ecosystem will do very well. It's been working flawlessly from an operational standpoint, not from a price standpoint, but from an operational standpoint. I've seen hacks on everything, X like hackers, exploiting stuff on bridges, on everything. I've never seen anything on the PULSECHAIN ecosystem. X has been working now for almost 4 years with never having any problems whatsoever. And I do believe it's real DeFi, not fake DeFi. By the way, Uniswap is introducing KYC, as well as MetaMask is in talks to introduce KYC. So there goes the right for privacy, which was one of the reasons why crypto was invented in the first place. And those things, in my opinion, are fake DeFi. And I do hope that one of the narratives for the next cycle will be real DeFi. And again, we should all be on the same side when it comes to these big decisions. Now, I've told you this many times before, and I'll tell you again. I am broadcasting my journey into what I believe it's going to be financial independence and hopefully generational wealth, but if not, at least financial independence. I spoke about my retirement bags. A lot of you kind of doubted and insulted me. I said, fine, look, this is my journey. Maybe by 2025, I'm completely wrong and I fall flat on my face, or on my mask in this case. Can be the case. I mean, I'm not putting that possibility aside. I'm just broadcasting my journey. And I think it would be actually quite inspiring if it does turn out well, because I started talking about projects where nobody would even want to touch them and call them a scam. People forget Bitcoin had its highest appreciation in price when everybody thought it was a scam. Same goes for Ethereum. In any case, guys, as you know, not financial advice, just giving you my opinion, my reading of certain situations. And I do hope that you guys enjoy your weekend, and I hope you do your research. Don't look at me as a leader of any sorts. That's not my point. I'm just here to broadcast my journey. Be careful, because people that have ignored X and PULSECHAIN have been quiet for the longest time, but all of a sudden you just need that little 150% pump, and then it's X on every channel on YouTube. So thank you very much, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.